welcome to the 50th episode of the Frontend Coffee Break. Ricardo, can you believe this is our half 100? Well, the 50th episode that we've been recording time, if I didn't mess up the numbers.
50, yes, 50.
Yes.
I think so. It's 50. Wow. Yeah.
So it's older than me officially for now. Anyhow, this is a podcast where we take a break from everyday life, grab a cup of coffee or whatever your drink of choice is, and discuss different front-end related topics. And today, as always, I'm with the fabulous Ricardo.
With me?
Hi.
Yes. No, thank you for the introduction. Happy to be here.
What are you drinking today, or you are just going
I don't want to shame myself, but my glass is empty. Although I'm a, how do you say that? A glass half full kind of guy. Optimist, not pessimist. All right. Anyway.
Okay. So, today's episode, it's based on discussions we've actually had somewhat recently and experiences that we've had throughout our career as front-end developers. And it's basically how to deal with impossible deadlines, requests, or situations. I think that we've been in the situation in which we are working on something and we have this one ticket that we need to finish, and it's Friday and needs to be done on Monday. You just started working on it, but it's estimated for a week. But it's super important, or at least the impression is that it's super important and it has to be done by Monday. I mean, this is something very hard to deal with. I mean, you have the deadline and you have to work with that. How do you deal with this? Well, this is just a very simple, a very basic example. I don't know if you've ever been in that situation that you need to finish something and you barely have enough time.
Thankfully, it's not very often. Otherwise, I think I would have changed careers. It has happened in the past for sure. But I think the more senior you get, like the more safeguards you put in place so this doesn't happen again, right? Because it's a nightmare.
So, I mean, for those people that have lived this, you learn. I mean, after a few times that this happens, and you either, for example, pull an all-nighter or work on the weekend or do these kind of things, you realize that you need to have better planning, or there's other strategies. In any case, I think that recently we've been having more and more pressure to be even more productive. Specifically, for example, I mean, this is always they always want us to be as productive as possible, but I think that with the incursion of AI, we are expected to be even better. You know, it's like, oh, well, you can do this in AI instead of 2 days. You can do this in 2 hours, and they expect us to be even more productive. And I think that this sometimes could end up in promising or giving promises of deadlines that are in the end impossible to achieve. And the thing is that when you're often working on this on a project that it's a long-term project that it has an impossible deadline, this is very important to know how to handle, because not only is it bad for business to not be able to deliver something as promised, but it also affects the mental health of the people that are working with it, the code quality of the work that you're doing, and of course, overall the team morale of the people that are working on it. And all of these things are bad. So, this is what we're going to be discussing today: how to deal with impossible deadlines, requests, or situations. Let's talk a little bit about some impossible situations that you can be in. For example, there's a couple of them. What impossible situation have you been facing? And
Sure. Let me not read my notes. Number one, unrealistic timelines. I think that's an easy one, the one you get most often probably, right? So when, as you said before in the example, they ask you to do something in a week or in a month or in a sprint, and you clearly see, oh, this is not possible. We don't have enough resources, or this is just too complex, or we have dependencies we haven't considered before. So this is quite usual, right, to encounter this in your career.
yes, and sometimes it's lack of planning, lack of understanding on the project. There's a lot of reasons why this can happen. Then there's, for example, when you're dealing with vague or constantly changing requirements. You know, that you're working during the sprint, and suddenly it's like, oh, could you add this? Oh, well, more than could you add this, you should add this, or the design changes and you need to start working all over again, and you need to get that work done and the rest of the work. I mean, just the scope changes mid sprint, and
Yeah,
that's horrible.
that's very annoying. That's very annoying for everybody, like quality assurance, developers, everyone. So I think that doesn't happen to me that often. That we change the scopes during a sprint. Usually, if it's something that it's really wrong, we stop working on it and then we go back to square one to like specifying. But usually changes they just go into another change request for the next sprint, right? You deliver whatever or don't deliver it, but then you wait for the next sprint. Otherwise, it's just it's a moving target, and it's impossible to achieve a moving target if you constantly are updating this thing. So that's very like how I want to say junior client mentality. They need to be more. And also like the bake, when the client says, yeah, I want the user to, I don't know, like I want an Amazon website. And you're like, come on, let's
Have you seen Amazon?
exactly. Or not that just like user stories that are very vague. No, not the user should be able to shop. What do you mean user should be able to shop? Okay, break it down. So yeah.
And then there's also when we are front-end developers, and sometimes they ask us to do things that are not related to our work. Why? Well, because, for example, sometimes I've worked in a project where the backend is not present during a couple of days because they're on vacation, or someone needs to do certain tasks, deploy the project, blah, blah, blah. And you end up doing things that you're not usually used to do. So it takes more time for you to do them, and it takes time away from your regular work.
Wait. Are you saying you're not a full stack developer?
I used to be a full stack developer, and I decided to go for front end because we have cookies on this side.
We do. Yeah, absolutely, man. I mean, when you ask somebody to do something that is not their own like daily sort of work or whatever, you cannot expect them to be as proficient or as fast, or I don't know. It goes back to planning. Like if you really need a resource with those skill sets, people have to have vacation, people get sick. So if you really need somebody, you need to have an on-call service or a support 24/7 or have more resources. It's money in the end, right? So I don't see it as a thing that we should care too much. If they ask you to do something in the server, you say, I don't know how to do it, move on, right?
Yeah, the bad thing is when you have the pressure, like, oh, but this needs to get done. I've been in situations, I'm not saying that currently it has happened recently, but I've been in projects in the past, a long time ago, that they were basically saying, it has to be done. I remember that I was in some time ago in a situation in which they said, oh, there's 2 workshops that need to be delivered. Workshop A, which you have zero idea of, or workshop B, which you barely know the basics. And it was more when I was starting my career, and I was like, I don't know. And they gave me the illusion of choice by saying, you either do A or would you rather do B? And of course, I chose B, and it went horrible.
Oh shit!
And yeah. But I managed to learn a very big lesson about this when they say, "Oh, you do A or you do B," and now I can say I'll do none.
None, or
Because
I'll give you
it's
an option C, maybe, right?
exactly.
Yeah.
This is something that I do. But anyhow, today let's center on of all of these different impossible situations, hard things that you can face off. Let's specifically tackle it. Let's imagine that requirements are all good, the expectations are all good, all of the things that you are going to be working only as a front-end developer. You're not going to do anything else except your job, but they ask you to do something like a MVP or something, a project in a timeline that you know it's impossible to work with. And that you suddenly say, hey, you're going to come into this project, super fantastic. You get in, it's like, yeah, we started last week and we need to deliver into the first deliverable. And then in 2 months, we need to finish the project. And you look at the specifications, you look at what they're asking. And it's like, as you said, oh, we want to do a small shopping site. We want you to clone Amazon in 2 months. And it has to be working. So first of all, why do you get into these situations? Why suddenly you might be facing a project that has this impossible timelines?
Many reasons for sure. I think the top one must be like underselling it. Like if whomever, like it could be a PM,
Yeah.
could be an architect, could be marketing, could be a salesperson, just not knowing or not consulting the technical roles on how feasible is this, how long it will take, and do just proper like due diligence when it comes to let's break down the requirement in packages. Let's estimate each package. let's see like how many resources we have. Do we have vacations? Like all the work that usually PMs do here at Content Centric, just do it, right? And then you will get a feeling of how long this is going to take, and then you, yeah. But then when somebody just don't do all that work and they just say, yes, sure, my team can do it in 3 months. Yeah, no.
And I'm sure that right now, once again, I can see it. I've heard friends in other companies telling that basically they sold a project in very little time because of the pressure of competing against other companies trying to sell the same project. I used to work for companies that we did government projects, and usually you end up, oh, we won this project. It's like, are we happy because you undersold it? Like, do we really have to only 2 months to finish this project that it's obviously bigger? So this is something that's happening, and especially once again, I think that AI has pushed this idea that we can be more effective forward.
But and
Then
to hold on, but this is
yeah, yeah.
unsustainable. So if you as a company are like underselling projects that then end up like either burning out your developers or not delivering, or making the client like angry at the end because you were not able to deliver, how are you going to really sustain a business in the long term? That's just not feasible. Like you have to sell and then make profit. That's what companies are for. Otherwise, you do an NGO. So you have to make profit, and you have. If I don't know, it for me it doesn't make any sense to undersell a project unless you already accounted for that loss. You say, okay, I want to win this client because it's going to give me maybe more down the line, more pipeline, more projects, and I'm going to undersell it. I'm going to assume the loss and then go on. But usually it's not like that. Usually there's no future like vision. It's like, yeah, I'm going to sell it for that because I get my bonus, maybe signing bonus, and then whatever.
No, but there is that situation, as you mentioned. I think this is one of the few acceptable things that you can do. Like you know that you're going to do a project on a loss, whether it's you're going to put more resources than you actually promised because you need to get it done in the date or things like this. But you know that in the future, even though that project is on a loss, it's going to bring more profit in the future. It's going to be more projects, more business. So this is I think one of the potential excuses, but never on the burning out your people. I mean, that's also very, very important. You also have, for example, you can get to this situation for a lack of communication, or because the different departments, as you say, you have to involve everyone in order to make a good sales pitch, and for everyone to know the what is to be expected. And then also, for example, because there were hidden things that you couldn't find in the discovery phase. I mean, there's many reasons why you can get into a project that you say, hey, it has to be done by this, but it doesn't end up. I mean, in the end, when you start working on it, you see that it's impossible.
What do you do then? What do you do when you're handed a project that, in theory, everyone involved has more or less like done due diligence, but then maybe there was hidden things underneath all the documentation handed over, or the client tries to change the scope, whatever. I mean, what do you do? You're a front-end developer or front-end lead.
Front-end lead, I guess. I think that there's a couple of things that need to be taken into account here. Just because you said the front-end lead part, it's important. There's certain roles, the project manager, for example, being one of them. I admire the project managers because they serve sometimes, or usually they serve as a barrier between the client and the developers. They protect the developers from potentially not dangerous, I'm going to say, potentially harmful comments or attitudes or something from the client. That doesn't mean that it happens often, but they serve as a filter. So that's nice. And as a front-end lead, usually you are one of the persons that are involved with the client constantly and work closely to them. And the same thing, you as a front-end lead need to shield your team from these kind of things. It's important. Of course, you don't have to keep them in the dark. That doesn't mean that you lie to them or you keep them in the dark. But it's like you make sure that they don't have to worry, that they are concentrated on the work that they're doing. Yes, you can say this is very important for us to do it, but let's do it on a reasonable time. What can you do? Okay, let's push for this. I mean, you encourage the team. But well, that's one thing. But let's imagine, as you say, the situation. You suddenly go into a project and you know that it's impossible to finish. What is the first thing that you do? In my case, and I think that this is something that I've
scream, go to the bed and
internally, like
just kidding.
Well, that I mean, it's valid. It's valid if you have a lot of pressure to do that. But the first thing that I think you need to do is you need to make a realistic assessment on how much this project is actually going to take. I think this is the very first thing. The moment that you realize that you cannot, that you have an impossible, and this is once again the topic of today, that you have an impossible deadline, that you have an impossible request. The first thing you need to do is to determine what you can actually do, what the limits are. I mean, if you think that, oh, we have to do everything, it's like, well, you can lie to yourself that you're going to do everything, but you need to be able to come up with a plan to see exactly what you can deliver, when you can deliver, and what you're going to need to deliver. I've seen this in a couple of projects where you sit down, the developers sit down and say, okay, so this is what needs to be done, what is the timeline, and you create a new timeline. That doesn't mean that that's the final timeline, but at least you have to get an idea of how
Yeah,
much it's
you
going
could
to
create
really
a new
cost.
timeline, or you could reshape the scope, right? In the end, probably maybe what's been specified is it's just too big. Right? That's the thing. You get the requirement and say this is too big. Can we trim some fat on this requirement? Can we reshape it into maybe an MVP that says, okay, what is the minimum thing that we can deliver that will accomplish the goal, which is maybe selling
Yes.
T-shirts, right? So how
Yes.
can we reshape this and remove the nice to haves, right? So let's just focus on must haves. It would be a different problem if you after you do the must have, you still cannot deliver it. It's also a possibility that you don't have enough resources or front end power. But still, I think for sure you could reshape it in somehow and just not say no to the client. No, we're gonna do it and then close the door. But actually, like go back to them and say, hey, we think this is not possible on this timeline, but we can deliver this, this, and this because we already done what you said before. We analyzed, we did the feasibility, and we said, okay, this requirement has 50 packages. We think that this 15 can be done in this timeline. What do you think, right? And then we all go roll in the same direction, because if the client says you need to do it in 3 weeks, 15 packages, but you say it's impossible, then you're in like in a standoff, like in the far west with the guns. Well, who shoots first? I don't know.
So it's important so the first thing is important to know exactly how much time you actually need, to know exactly how much you can deliver, and to find strategies, as you say, to reshape whether the scope itself, keep the timeline but reshape the scope, or change the timeline and change the scope, or keep the scope but reshape the timeline. But it's important to really understand the cost of delivering. And my recommendation is always to exaggerate. I had a teacher when I was in college, and I even remember what he told me. He said that he was once on a lift going down when he was working at a company, and then this young developer came to him. He's like, "Hey, I'm working on these requirements and blah blah blah." And he asked the developer, "So, in how much time do you think you can deliver this?" And then the guy said, "Oh, I can deliver it in 8 times, in 8 hours." And my teacher at that point looked at him and said, "No, you're not going to deliver it in 8 hours. You're going to deliver it in 10 hours." And the guy said, "No, no, no. I'm going to deliver it in 8 hours for sure, for sure, for sure, for sure, for sure." And then at the end, he didn't deliver it in the 8 hours, but managed to deliver it in 10 hours. And he talked to my professor and talked about it. And the professor said, "Hey, you're being very optimistic. Every time that you do an estimation, you need to do at least a 20% additional time. And this guy's name was Abelardo, and the teacher told us, well, when you do estimations, you need to do Abelardo hours estimations. You don't do
Oh,
normal hours, you do Abelardo hours, which is basically the time that you think it takes plus 20%.
just some buffer, right? Yeah, I always
A
add some
buffer.
buffer. And I think uh, for everything, you always need to like overestimate. So when you deliver
Yes.
early, clients are happier. Like, of course, you cannot go like on a crazy number, because then you will not
Yes.
get the business. But you should add a buffer, because then if you finish early, it is fantastic news. You can either spend the time doing something else and deliver extra value, or say, hey, you saved some money. Or if you deliver on time, you deliver on time, but you're not late, right? So definitely that's a 101 when it comes to selling software. Or yeah.
But when you're redoing the scope, as we were mentioning, that you're in this mess and you have to do it, do not try to be the most optimistic possible. Still add a buffer.
Yeah.
I've seen people, and I've done it myself, that you want to be super, it's like, oh, we're going to be super late, so I want to be the closest to the real estimation as possible. It's like, no, estimate a little bit more, even in those situations. And then you can negotiate with the client regarding that, but always estimate more, because you're always going to end up negotiating. You're always going to end up talking to the client and them trying to get a little bit less time. So it's important that you add a buffer from the very beginning. It's okay.
Things that work on this, I have not in my notes for sure. So again, with MVP, you could also say like work more agile and say, okay, let's work on the sprints, and then we just do like more rollouts, more phases, more. We go to this date, and then but we continue. Like we go to production, but then we continue working, and then on the following 4 weeks we deliver more stuff. Right? It doesn't have to be like a hard deadline where we don't deliver anything else, unless of course there are projects that are like that you have to deliver and you close the door, never again to be touched. But usually it's not the case. I think agile usually works, so we know it works. The industry uses it, so some clients don't know about it. Some clients, they think that it's like you give them the keys to the house and you're done. No, let's go step by step, work on the sprints, Scrum. These things work, right? So you use them.
And this is something that I've learned the hard way during the years, is once you start working on a project, and this applies to any project, but specifically for projects that have a very tight deadline, once you start working on this, you have to be very, very, very strict regarding on the work that you're doing. You should never... I've been in, and it has gotten me into problems, that you want to be a pleaser. You want to please the client by giving them something, and they say, oh, it would be nice to have this animation, which was never scoped. And since you know that, you already promised the client, you talk to the client and hopefully you've extended the time. He's like, oh, well, I should give that to the client because it's going to make him happy and it's going to make the situation less tense. No. Something that I've learned the hard way is that do not budge. Be very strict regarding on the requirements of what you're working with. I mean, you're already working on a strict deadline. The worst thing that you can do is to actually accept more work. So it has to be very strict. Oh, you want that? Well, we can add it then. And this is something that is also and this is something that the PM works on it. If they ask for more, push the deadline and make sure that it's understood that, oh, you want this animation, one sprint behind, and it's not our fault.
I was going to say project management, right? If they want something that it's a nice to have, just add it to your whatever ticket board, cheetah board with the label nice to have, and put it at the end of the backlog. And then if we have spare time, we'll do it. If not, we continue as planned. I mean, but again, we go back to the beginning of the episode. Changing scopes, moving targets, that cannot happen. Like and you as a front-end lead need to like stick together with the project manager, account manager, whomever, and be strong and say, yes, we can do it, but not right now. If you remember them, you wanted me to deliver this, so if you want the animation, we have to take something out. I mean, in the end, the team has certain velocity. They have certain, if you like poker things, certain sprint points that you can deliver each week or each 2 weeks. So yeah, it's not magic. We cannot add something and deliver at the same time. Something has to give. So
yes. Yeah. And now when you're working, something that you need to take into account when you're working with very tight deadlines, although ideally you should work like this, but it's specifically important to do it like this, is you really need to prioritize your time in your working time in the project. You know, if you see that the client or whatever in your company, you have certain meetings that take away time from you or from the developers, from their development time, you should be able to prioritize what needs to be done, who needs to be where. I've seen meetings where, you could really use 2 developers and the rest can continue working, and they put everyone there. And suddenly you have 8 developers, 5 developers sitting there. Most of them are just listening and agreeing with what the majority or the more senior ones are saying. And what I'm saying is that it's not that it's not important, their opinion, but sometimes you need to prioritize these kind of things. Like you need to be very aware of the time, and when you're using it and you need to fight for this, like, this meeting, only these persons need to be here, the rest don't have to be.
They're being productive, right? I mean, as you said, like refinements, not ticket refinements and sprint refinements where they have the whole team in it, that doesn't make any sense. Like get one front-end developer, one back-end developer, one QA, PM, and then just triage wherever you have to triage, and then delegate and just assign the tickets, right? Yeah, especially in tight deadlines. If you have spare time, sure. The more like you spread knowledge, sure, it's better for the team. Everybody
Yes.
knows about what's coming in the pipeline. But if you are, again, we go back to the impossible situation, you have to be productive. Then don't distract your developers. Let them code. The developers are for coding, not for meeting, right? You are the front-end lead. You should be spending your time meeting, not coding.
And I love something you wrote down for the notes for the podcast that were negotiate
notes.
for
No notes. We don't use notes
negotiate
here.
win-win outcomes, and I really like that in the sense that you when you're in these kind of situations, you will have to negotiate hard. You will have to make hard decisions, and it's going to be tense. But you need to try to figure out how the best outcome from both sides. What's the better outcome for you as a company, and what's the best outcome from the client? And this is hard negotiation. And unfortunately, this is something that you need to figure out how to make both of you winning.
Yeah.
So, pushing back doesn't mean that you're not going to do something, but you're going to try to find out.
Yeah, because if both parties say no, then we stop working. Like if the client says, I need it, and you say, but I cannot do it, then what else is there to conversate? There's nothing to more. We just break contract and we go separate ways. But when you try to rephrase and you say, okay, I cannot do that, but I can do that, and that, and we can deliver this, and maybe if you give me 3 more weeks, I can do that, then it's a different conversation, right? So I think the overall mentality is you have to push back, but try to reshape it. You're a technical person. You know how projects are run, right? The clients usually don't know that. They just want their baby, their product, go to market with whatever. So help them do that. That's what you pay for. So yeah.
Okay, this topic, I think it's one that it can go on for a long time. We can be discussing this for a long time. But for now, one of the things, just summarizing a little bit what we've been saying, is when you're faced on a situation in which you have impossible deadlines, first thing first, understand what can be done in how much time. I mean, knowing you probably have more information at when you start the project, and at that point, if the timeline doesn't work, you need to understand what you can do, when you can do it, how much you can do, what the new timeline is. You need to create a plan. This is the first thing. Before you negotiate, before you go to the client, before you do whatever, you need to understand how much you can deliver, what can be delivered, what's realistic, how many people, everything. Then based on that, you can take decisions. And sometimes they're going to be hard decisions. Sometimes it's going to be hard, and you will have to negotiate hard with a client regarding this. And you need to be able to, as we've mentioned, to find a common ground, to find the best of both worlds, to find outcomes that work for both. But it's sometimes super, 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 super hard to be in this situation. Imagine that you're in a very, very, very impossible situation, that it's like, oh no, you need to finish this in 2 weeks, and you know that it's really impossible. What would you recommend?
Find another job. It's. I think we went over and over. We don't have a silver bullet for this. I don't know there's just a single thing.
We don't.
We mentioned a lot of stuff. One thing that I would like to as a conclusion to mention here is that people live for profit. I think that's key, and I think you and I share the same opinion where, you could make profit and then try to burn out your developers or your colleagues. But I would rather see less margins and more happy faces than more profit. But people going to the therapist.
I've learned also the hard way that health is more important than profit.
Yeah.
And if you ever faced in a situation where you have to choose yourself over the company, I mean, this is going to sound very bad in the sense that we're here representing the company that we're working with. But in my personal experience, I can say that you should always choose your health. Always. You should try hard. You should, especially if it's from time to time, you can do an extra effort. I'm not against that. I think it's sometimes you have to do it in every type of work. But you should always, always, always look out for yourself first. Your health is the most important thing that you have. And the company, even if you lose your health, no amount of money is going to get you that back. So.
For sure. And as a company, again, a recommendation, if this happens often, you need to find out the root cause. What's happening here? Is it the developers who are not estimating correctly? Is it the sales roles that are underselling? What's going on? But we need as a whole, not as an individual, as a whole, how to fix this to have, again, more profit, more business, and more happy people. That's, I think, it shouldn't have to be too hard.
So in the end, I think we all want this. We all want more profit. We all want to be happier as well. So it's important that you find the best way to do this, to work to it. And you should definitely try to avoid these kind of situations. Sometimes it's unavailable, but you have to try to find them. Oh, sorry, to find that how to work on that. Okay, so I think that's all the time that we're going to be talking about this topic. As I said, there's a lot of things that we can talk about. Hopefully, this is exception and not the rule. When you're working for long enough, you'll be in situations like this. Sometimes the impossible deadlines are going to be really short. Sometimes there's going to be too much difference. The important thing, as you mentioned, find out why, try to avoid it in the future. If you can, if you're there already, try to figure out the best way to do it. But always plan and communications are key. And fortunately, in our company, we do have support from the rest of the community, the Frontend community, and the rest of the people. Look for help. You should not be a lone hero trying to take this on your own, but reach out to your colleagues. You should not be doing these kind of things alone.
Thank you for listening. And see you next time.
Until the next episode. Bye-bye.